Hi, everybody. Hello. Happy New Year. Again, for those of you who weren't at Knit Club, Happy New Year. I hope you're all excited about the machine knitting you have ahead of you this year, whatever stage you're at. I think tonight's going to be reasonably busy, so we're going to give it a couple of minutes to let people in. Steve and Katie are here as well, helping out in the chat and moderating. So we should be all good, but just give it a minute or so. I'm going to bring up my slides in a minute, and I'll go through how this evening's going to run. But as with all of these things, if you pop questions in the chat, a lot of them, Steve and Katie are going to be keeping an eye on that. They should be able to answer things for you a lot of the time. And if not, I'll pause at different points to go through the questions up to that point. So just pop your comments in the chat as we're going along. Just still letting people in. And we have got members, MKC members and non-members here this evening as well, which is lovely, makes it nice and interesting. So there will be points where I'll be talking about things that are inside the community and then things for non-members as well. So just take the information that's relevant to you. If it doesn't make sense, again, pop a question in the chat and Steve or Katie can help you with that. Okay. So we've got people joining us. We've got people from Kent, people from Wakefield, the USA, Sweden, lovely, Orkney, Finland. Oh, all over. That's great. I love that. Very international. Okay, so Steve, if you can just carry on letting people in as it pops up. I am just going to move to my first screen. Wait 1 second. Okay, I did have that open, but it's not there now. So let's go back to that. Okay. Okie dokie. Right. There we go. Hopefully everyone can see my screen, which is all about setting your machine knitting goals for 2025. I love this point in the year for anything, but particularly for my machine knitting, because you have a whole shiny new year ahead of you with 12 months of opportunities to do things, and you can put last year behind you. I'm going to kind of go into that in a bit more detail in a minute. But if I just go through the way it's going to run this evening, is going to be in two parts. So the first part, everything on the left that you can see, is our 5 steps to setting your machine knitting goals. So I've broken it down into 5 separate stages, and I'm going to take you through each of those and how you can use each of those steps to set your goals for the year. Then in the second half, I'm going to go on to more specifically the community, how the community works, how the community can help you set those goals and achieve those goals, how Reboot will be running, as well as some of our other things that are going on, and a tour inside the community so everyone can see where things are. So the second half is more for the non-members, although it is still helpful for members, either if you're new members, you've only just joined and so you're still finding your way around, or for some non-new members who still can't find things or still need a bit of a help in seeing where things are, or just discovering things you didn't even know existed before. The second half can help with all of that. And then right at the end, any other questions that we haven't answered up until that point, there'll be an opportunity to go through questions then. So hopefully that all sounds good. Everyone's okay with that. So I'm just going to start then on our setting your goals for 2025. And this is where I have to get into the talking about 2025 being this year now and not next year, which is one thing I always find difficult in this first week when we flipped over. Because the first thing we need to do to be able to set our goals for this year is to look back on last year and think about, well, what did we achieve last year and what can we take from that? Now, this is meant to be a positive review and a positive piece of work and framing. It's not meant to be beating yourself up about all the things that you didn't do last year that you wanted to do and then just moving them all over to this year and going, right, well, I'm just going to get them all done this year then instead. So it's not about that. Now, the interesting thing I found when I did this work last year, I was doing it for the very first time. So it was almost starting with a blank page, really. It was the first time I'd done a review of my machine knitting year, and it was the first time I set goals for the coming year. But when I came around to put all this together for tonight, obviously I had last year's presentation and talk to look at and all of my work that I'd put in for that, which makes it more interesting in a way. And some of you who did this last year with me might experience the same thing, because you can go through and you can say, oh, okay, well, what did I say were my goals for 2024 and how did that go? So that can be part of it as well, which can be interesting. And I'm going to point out a few things as we go through that highlight that. But the first thing is to do your review of last year, of 2024. So you can look at the milestones, what other things that you did achieve with your machine knitting. And this will be very different for all of us. There will be some people, I know we've got new members who only just got knitting machines at Christmas. So in a way, your review of last year is going to be very, very straightforward because you won't have done any machine knitting yet, or very little. But for others, some of us will have had a full year of machine knitting. Others, life might have got in the way. So like I say, this is a positive thing. It's not about beating yourself up or focusing on what you didn't achieve. It's just having a plain good old look, what did I achieve? And I did my own review where I went through all the projects that I completed in 2024. And that's an article in the community that a lot of you will have seen. Or for those of you who aren't members, it's a blog post on our website. So hopefully a lot of you will have seen that as well. But also picking out from that any magic moments that came from your machine knitting. So that could be one of the projects that you completed, one of the things that you've picked up in your milestones. It could be something slightly different. It could be meeting a machine knitting buddy for the first time, maybe someone that you've connected with online but you had never met before, and then last year you managed to meet up with them in real life, something like that. It could be your magic moment could be knitting using designer knit for the very first time. It could be using a different type of yarn or a different technique that you never tried before and you'd always wanted to, and last year you managed to achieve that. So what are the magic moments from last year? And then quite importantly, what did you learn from all of those projects? Maybe you learned that you hate intarsia, or that you don't like sitting down at your machine, you prefer standing up, or that all sorts of things. But the idea of looking back is to say, well, what can we take from last year and what went well, and I want to take that forward to next year. What didn't go so well, or what held me back and I don't want to worry about for next year. So those are your learnings. In the community, obviously a lot of what we do is all about connecting with other machine knitters all over the world in all sorts of different ways, online, in person, at events, all sorts of things. So it's a nice time as well to look back and say, well, what connections did I make with my machine knitting last year? Who supported me? Who did I help out? Who did I meet up with? That I think it's really important to think about the connections that you made as well. And then also to have a think about your environment and workspace, because I think particularly with machine knitting, that can really make a difference to what you actually accomplish. It can really, really hinder you, or it can really, really help. And I know when I talk about gratitude in a minute, one of the things that I'm grateful for is I'm very lucky to be able to have a machine set up permanently at all times. And that, but I do know that there are some people who just don't have that luxury, and that their machine has to be packed away and then put up again each time they're working on something. So your environment and workspace, in terms of how it was for last year, is something you can look back on and again think about, well, what could I improve, or what could I change about my workspace to make it more helpful for me to achieve the goals that I want to achieve? Could it be moving it to a different room? Could it be switching out one machine and putting another one out instead? Could it be better lighting? All sorts of things that you could think about there. Then I've gone on to the last two are a bit more about looking after yourself, really, as part of your machine knitting. So the growth and the self-care is about what did you do from kind of a development point of view, or a looking after yourself point of view, which certainly for me, and I think for a lot of people, we don't think about enough. We're so focused on the just getting on with things, just getting things done, that it's very easy to not think about, well, actually, how could I make this more comfortable for myself or more enjoyable? So thinking about things that you could do to develop and help yourself. Could it be that you need help with a certain way of setting up your machine, and you need to get in touch with someone to help you with that? Could it be that actually something on your machine's been on the blink for ages, and you've tried fixing it, but you can't anymore, and you really do need to find an engineer somewhere to help you out, something like that. And then finally, the gratitude element of it. And I'm sure lots of you, this will have come up in all sorts of different areas, online and in other groups that you're in, about the power of gratitude and taking 3 positive things. So like I said right at the start, this isn't a negative. This isn't about looking at what you didn't manage to achieve. It's about what you did manage to achieve, and what are 3 positive things you could take from last year that will make you feel good about your machine knitting. And what I'm going to do now is, on the next slide, I'm going to go through each of these steps as an example and show you what I put for mine. So here's my review of last year. So again, like I say, my personal review is within the community in an article, and it's in a blog on our website. So there's a link to it there for anybody who hasn't read it as yet. But it went through each of the things I'd managed to knit last year, which was down on the previous year. So this is saying it starts to get interesting, where you can compare year on year. In that I started off great guns last year. I'd knitted something in February and something in March. So I had 2 items completed by the middle of March, I think it was, or certainly the end of March, which isn't like me. But then I don't know if I got a bit kind of carried away by that, or a bit cocky, because then nothing else happened till about September. So I had, when I say nothing else happened, lots of things happened, but no finishing of garments happened until September. So anyway, I went through and I managed, I think it was 7 or 8 projects for the year, which was okay going, not too bad. And like I say, it's not a case of saying, oh, that was terrible, it was less than last year, I was 2 projects down, and oh, that means that I was less productive, blah blah blah. It's more about, okay, well, what happened between April and September? Why did that go that way, and what can I do about it for next year, this year? The magic moments for me, that will continue to be, this is what I put in 2024, and I'm saying it again now, is wearing my finished knits. I'm still reveling in the fact that I'm actually getting the chance to knit things for myself, which for several years I never ever managed to do. So I'm still kind of, that's still a novelty to me. So that's still definitely my magic moment. The learnings. So I put last year that my learning was accountability and that I needed accountability to get the projects done. And so for me, the things that I did accomplish were when I signed up to do a masterclass or a knit along with another tutor. And because I'd committed to it, I was like, well, I've got to finish this because this will look awful if I start it and I don't finish. So, and that's what got me through. So in February last year, the first thing I ever did was Sophia Carer's Mariniere jumper. And then in March, it was Kurt's dice roll vest for Steve. So the first two things I completed were both because I'd said to other people, yeah, I'm gonna do those. And that's what got them done. So the accountability did still work for me, but the problem with it was that I didn't actually link that to reality in terms of time. So I'd say, oh, I'll do things. So there's two things that I've got on the go at the moment that I've said I'd do. So I've got the accountability factor, but I haven't actually allowed for the fact that, oh, well, for the 2 weeks over Christmas, our studio is closed and I don't have access to a knitting machine. Right, okay, maybe I should have thought about that and things like that. So for me, my learning for going forward for next year is to create more white space around those accountability things. So it's all very well and good saying, yep, I'm going to sign up for this and I'm going to do it. But it actually, if I'm saying I'm going to do something, then I also need to say no to a lot of things that go around it in that time period. So, for example, excuse me, I'll come on to in a bit. We've got something called Veroncathon running in January, which I have signed up for and committed to. But what that means is, excuse me, I can't take on any other projects around the time that I'm doing that. So that's what I'm talking about the more white space. So that's my learning from that. Connections. My connections I really appreciated last year was Team MKC. So mainly Katie here. I don't want to diminish Steve's responsibility, but Steve's been by my side for a good many years, whereas Katie only really came onto the team just before I was doing this review last year. She started in the November, I think, of the previous year. So by the time we got to the very beginning of January, she was still kind of quite new to the team. But having her on board for the whole of 2024 has been an absolute godsend and has allowed me to do the projects that I was able to complete, which I wouldn't have done without her. So definitely the team is one of my big connections. And then we did a lot of traveling at the beginning of last year, and I was lucky enough to meet members in both New Zealand and the US, which was fantastic. And that's something again that I'm taking through to this year as well. So those are my connections. Environment and workspace, this is the big one for me. So the thing what you might find as you start to do this over a number of years is that your kind of priorities between each of the areas change a bit. So whereas in 2023 I had been focusing on the productivity, the number of things I could get knitted, last year what ended up being quite a big change and focus for us was getting a brand new studio space. Up until then, ever since COVID, we'd been working from home. There'd been knitting machines everywhere. It had been very cozy, for want of a better word. And in last year's presentation, I talked about how my current knitting space was dark, cold, drafty, not enough room, not enough light. And actually now when I come to do the review, I'm like, I've got this new knitting space. It's brilliant. It's so much bigger. I can have at least 4 machines set up at any one time. I don't have to put one down before I can put another one up. It's got great lighting, slight issue on the lighting, but that's by the by. So that's been definite progress. So whereas I could look at my milestones and say, oh, well, I didn't knit as much as I did last year, actually, I've made huge improvements on my environment and workspace. So that's a big positive. Growth in self-care is the exercise and travel. So I now have the brand new studio is right next to our council leisure centre. So we're able to go and use the facilities there, either before work or at lunchtimes or after work. So that's brilliant. And again, opportunities for travel they were great last year. We got to meet so many members and see so many nice places that was a really, really good positive. And then my 3 gratitudes for last year were the machine knitting buddies all over the world. How nice is it? And all our members can do this. You can all do this. You can pop something in the bulletin board and say, I'm going to be in Germany in April. Who fancies meeting up, or who has recommendations for something? And we've seen this with a few of our members. Kay's organised a couple of meetups in Canada. There's been some other more kind of impromptu ones. I know I've seen some in California where a few of you have met up at yarn festivals and that kind of thing. So that's really, and in fact, I think maybe at Rhinebeck some people did as well. Anyway, it's lovely to see. And it's a great thing to be able to say that, you know, you can go anywhere in the world and there'll be an MKC member who can tell you a bit about it. So that's good. I'm also grateful for the fact I have control over my own time and work. I know so a lot of people don't have that luxury, and so that's really, really good thing to be able to say. And then my new studio, which I've talked about. So 3 lovely things to be grateful for. So that was my review. So I would encourage all of you, and I know some of our members have done this already because I've seen quite a few articles going in of people's review of the years, which is really nice. It's always interesting seeing other people's as well. And I find that quite motivating, as well as doing my own thing, is seeing what other people achieve as well. So that's part of step 1. The second part of it is taking from that, well, okay, that's what happened last year. But what can I learn from that? What am I going to carry on doing because it worked really, really well for me? And what am I going to stop doing because it really caused me problems or got in my way? So again, here's my examples. So I'm going to carry on taking part in MKC projects because that always works really well for me. And so Veronikathon is the first one for me for that. And I'll talk about that in more detail in a little bit. Making clothes for me and others. I'm expanding that a bit. Last year, all I put was making clothes for me because it's all about me. I'm trying to be a bit more generous in my knitting. Plus, my drawer of self-made knits is getting quite full now, so I think I need to kind of spread it around a bit. So Steve might be hoping that he gets something else this year. But this is the interesting switch for me, and this only came up for me today when I was finishing off my review, is the changing from being very productivity led, where it's all been about number of projects, knitted actual finished garments, getting things completed. What I really want to focus on for this year is more creative knitting and experimenting, which is quite a different mindset. So that's going to take a little bit of focus and work, I think, and talking about getting time at my machine to be able to play around and experiment with things rather than just, right, the only way I'm going to get on my machine is if I sign up for a project and get that project done and then move away from it again. And then I talked about momentum sessions, which I used really well in the first bit of last year. And I think actually that ties in with when did I get things done and when didn't I, was when I was attending momentum sessions, which is quite interesting as well. So for those of you who don't know, who haven't attended momentum sessions, they're really just co-knitting events where there's 3 every month, one for each of the general time zones, and we just all come together, we put our Zoom on, we say what we're going to work on, we mute ourselves, we work for an hour, and we come back and say, well, how did we get on? And I know some people find those really, really useful, and I do as well. So that's what I'm going to be carrying on with. The stuff that I'm going to be elbowing out is the talking and writing about machine knitting. And what I mean there is, I don't mean that I'm not going to talk and write about machine knitting, but the focus for me is going to be on the knitting, not the talking about it. So I want to flip that round. I think I spent a lot of time last year talking about the things I was going to do and that kind of thing, so that I didn't really have much time left for for the actual doing. So that's what I want to kind of flip on its head. And then I've got my laughing emojis on the next one, because that point has just been straight carried across from last year, being unrealistic about time. It's one of my personality traits. So I don't think I'm ever going to get rid of it entirely, but I do need to somehow create more white space around things and be more realistic about what I can achieve. So that is definitely going to be focused. And then pressure on myself or perfectionism. Sometimes, if I want to go back to doing the more creative knitting and experimenting, you can't really do that if you only sit down to finish something perfectly. By its nature, the experimenting, some things are going to go wrong, some things aren't going to work out, some things are going to happen that you didn't even realize were going to happen, and they're going to be like happy accidents. But you won't get any of that if you're too focused on perfectionism and, oh well, I can't show anybody what I've worked on today because it all looks rubbish. All I've got is this pile of swatches that I really don't want to, show to anyone. I don't want to photograph. That's not going to work. So that's what I'm letting go of. So again, I also encourage you to, as part of your review of last year, think about what you want to bring with you for this year and what you want to ditch. And so this next sheet is a blank one for you guys to fill in. When we send out the recording tomorrow, we'll put it in the community, and we'll also email it to anybody who's not members. You will get these blank pages that you can print out if you want to do your own review. So that's why that's there for that one. So step 2 is to identify your aims of what you want. This is overall aims. Why do you machine knit? Think about, if someone would say to you, if you bumped into someone on the bus and you were talking to them about your hobbies, and you say, oh yeah, I'm a machine knitter, that's my main hobby, I like knitting things, and they say, well, why do you machine knit? What would you say? Is it because and I've split this into 4 kind of main areas. So the first one, productivity, is the one that used to always be my focus. It's like, well, I want to knit things for myself. I'm trying to move away from fast fashion. I love fashion and I love clothes, but I don't want to keep buying from retailers. So therefore, I want to make my own things. So that was one of the reasons I machine knit, is to make things for myself and for other people. So it's a kind of a productivity thing. How many things can I machine knit? And also I'm a hand knitter. And so my machine helps me to produce more than I could if I was just hand knitting. But as I've already highlighted in my review, actually this year I'm switching it up, and I want to be more about creativity this year. And I want to use my knitting machine to play around and experiment and develop swatches. So my year this year, I think, is going to be quite different to last year. And that's probably going to make my review at the end of this year very different as well. Mindfulness is here as a different category. It could be that you machine knit because that is your me time. That is the opportunity for you to go off into a room, shut the door, and do something just for you rather than other people, and to be able to shut out the outside world and all the pressures and everything that's going on, just while you focus on what's happening on that needle bed. Or it could be a learning or growth kind of tool for you. So you could be doing it because you like to learn new things. And actually, with machine knitting, as we all know, you are learning things all the time. You never stop learning. So it could be that that's what really excites you, is the fact that, oh, there's always something new to learn or to try. Now, it could be that you want a bit of all of that. There's nothing to say that, oh, just because I want to focus on creativity this year, it doesn't mean I don't want to get any garments finished at all, because I've already talked about, well, I still want to knit things for myself and other people. But it's, where is my focus? What is my priority? Because when we get further down the line, where we're identifying what our projects are going to be, if we know what our main focus is, it's going to make it easier for us to choose and just get on with something. So those are the 4 areas I've split it into. And so again, you've got a blank page there for you to work on your own. So now you've done that, we can move on to step 3, which is having a plan. Which is really important because, like with anything else in life, as we all know, if we don't actually consciously come up with a plan for doing things, life has a nasty habit of getting in the way. And before you know it, you'll be in December of this year and you won't actually have knitted any of the things you wanted to have done. You might have knitted some things, you might not. But if you don't have a plan, you're never really going to achieve what you want to achieve. So step 3 is about working on your plan, and you can ask yourself 5 questions about your machine knitting for the year. Which are how, when, where, what, and who. We've already asked ourselves why in the previous section. Why do we want to machine knit, or why do we machine knit? So there's actually 6 questions overall, but the why gives us our overall reason for machine knitting, and then these 5 questions help us to make a plan for how do we achieve that. So the first thing, the how, is what machines, tools, and accessories are you planning to use for your machine knitting this year? Now, for some of us, that might be quite easy. You might only have one knitting machine. For the people who are brand new to machine knitting, you will probably still only have one knitting machine. If you have more than one, I would still encourage you to forget about the others whilst you're getting to grips with just one of your machines. So that might be easy. You might know which machine you're going to use. But if you've got several machines, then you might want to have a think about, well, which of my machines do I want to use? Do I want to make this year the year that I really master the 560? I'm thinking about Kay and her fun with the electronics on that one. Or you might have a pass up that you've never got round to using, or you've only kind of played around with. You might want to use that this year. Or it could be your Intarsia carriage. You might never have used that and you want to use that this year. So think about how do you want to machine knit, because that will help you pick some projects as well. And then what about when do you want to machine knit? And for some of us, we have more flexibility on this than others. It could be about, what time of day do you want to machine knit? What days of the week? Some of us will be lucky enough that if we wanted to, we could knit every single day. Now, this has changed quite a lot for me now that we have the new studio, because I don't have 24/7 access. Whereas when we were here, whilst I used to kind of moan a bit about the fact there's stuff everywhere, and I can do things whenever, and I can't find anything, but everything's all over the place. I could at least always do something in the evenings or at weekends. I don't have that flexibility now that we have our studio space. I could do, if I organise to bring one machine back here and have that set up, that would help a bit. But if I'm just going to work with the studio, then I've got to do it within certain core hours. So that's going to certainly put some limitations for me that I need to think about. So could it be that you have limitations that you need to think about? Could it be that you live in an apartment where the noise for your neighbours means that you can't really do it early in the morning or late at night? And also, probably, how do you like to work? Are you a morning person? Are you an evening person? Are you a weekend person? Or when is time available to you as well? Think about, and this comes back to my thing about being realistic about your time as well. If you already have a full-time job and caring responsibilities and lots of other things going on, it's unrealistic to tell yourself, even though at this time of year, we always like to say, this is the year I'm going to do an hour of machine knitting every single day, because that will make me a better machine knitter. There's no point saying that if in 2 weeks' time something's going to come along and it's going to disrupt all your plans, because then you'll just kind of fall off the wagon. So it is about being realistic about what's going to work for you, what type of using your time is going to work. And then at the bottom there, I've put the momentum sessions for anybody who wants to use those. Like I say, we've got 3 a month in each of the different time zones. So there should be at least one, hopefully, that will be a convenient time for you. If there isn't, you could always set up things like that with other people online, friends that you've got, and you could use a Zoom account and you could meet up and you could do the same thing. It could be that if you're lucky enough to have a guild on your doorstep, and you can use the times that they meet to regulate machine knitting time as well. So lots of things to consider about when, but the more of these things you consider now, the more likely you are to achieve the goals that you set when we get to that bit of it. So the where is about your workspace and setup. So I've spoken quite a bit now about our new setup and how that's really going to help. So that is kind of something that we focused a lot on last year. So I don't hopefully have to focus on too much this year, but I will have to focus more on the when now than I did. So what do you need to think about in terms of your workspace? Is there a different area of the house you could use instead? Is there better lighting that you could set up? Is there a way of organizing your yarn stash so that it's all there for you to see and really easy for you to grab every time you need to start on a new project? Then I'm going to move on to what, the fourth question out of all of these, and it's what do you want to knit? What sort of things? Is it that? And again, this could be, you can, all of these questions, they're just starting points to get you thinking, and you can go off in any way you want from here. But are there specific projects that you want to achieve? Is this the year that you want to knit a Fair Isle yoke jumper, or a cardigan, or maybe do some steeking, or all sorts of any number of things? But what are the projects that you really want to work on this year? Or maybe it's not project based. Maybe what you really want to work on is diving into your yarn stash and using some of that up, because you've maybe made a commitment this year to not buy any more yarn. And so you want to start on the reverse, and you want to go to your yarn stash and pull something out and say, right, what am I going to knit with this? So do some research around all of that, and the ideas about what you might want to work on. And then the who, again, I've talked about this already in terms of, this is a big thing for me personally. For some people, it might not be a problem. They might not need the accountability, but I most definitely do. And a lot of us do, which is where the community comes in a lot of the time. And some of the things like momentum sessions come in, because if you commit to showing up to the momentum session, you've got that accountability of, well, at least I'm going to get an hour's machine knitting done this week, even if I don't do any more than that. But if you need accountability, think about ways that you can introduce that. Could it be that you could find a guild that's near to you and you could use that as your accountability? Maybe you've got a friend who machine knits and you decide that you're going to pick one afternoon a week to knit together. All sorts of different things you can do with that. You can do it virtually, or you can do it in person. So you could put something in the community where you reach out to someone and say, does anyone else want to be an accountability buddy this year? And so that comes with the collaborations as well. Are there other people that you can work with on projects? So the accountability is more about saying to people, committing, this is what I'm going to, this is when I'm going to knit, or this is what I'm saying I'm going to do, this is what I'm signing up for. The collaboration is about doing things together at the same time, and that's what a lot of the projects in the community are built around. So all of our knit alongs, our masterclasses, our challenges, they all come out of that collaboration of us saying, right, we're all going to knit this thing this month. So that's where Veronikathon comes in as well. That is a specific project that a number of us have said we're all going to knit over the same 3 days. And so that collaboration is what drives us all to get that thing done, hopefully. And then the company of others. Is it, again, this won't be for everybody, but for some people, they like that meeting up with other people. So again, if there's guilds that you can join, if there's knitting retreats that you can go on, any in real life meetups that you can do. A lot of our members organise their own ones. So again, could you put something in the community and say, anybody else in Yorkshire fancy meeting up for a day, or suggestions like that? And then we've also got, just at the bottom here, the second hashtag. So we've got Veronkathon, which I will cover, is we have a brand new knit along starting this Wednesday. And it's a 12-month knit along. So it's going to carry on throughout the year. And that is a perfect project if people want some kind of combination of accountability and collaboration, because there's going to be a different project each month. Everyone will be knitting it together and you've got 1 month to complete it. And there might be some prizes as well. But having that as well is another way of using knitting with others to help you to achieve things. But the most important thing on this slide here is the make it easy bit at the bottom. Because there's no point setting yourself up for failure by choosing the most difficult and complicated way of doing things. Our brains hate hard work and they will resist that at all costs. So as soon as you start adding in loads and loads of complications to your project, that's when it's likely to fail. So make it as easy as possible. Pick the best time of the day. Pick the easiest project that you can choose to start with. Work at where you are now, not necessarily where you want to be, and then you give yourself a chance, because the momentum then can carry you on. If you pick something really easy and you get it done, great, you get a boost, and then you move on to the next thing and then the next thing, and you can gradually get a bit more complicated and a bit harder, but you're building that muscle as you go. So there is the blank page for anybody who wants to do that. And then, so step 4, after you have come up with your plan, you are now going to choose your specific goals, but not the first one to work. This is just like a brain dump of everything you want to do. So I've given an example here. This bit in the center where it says learning is a bit right back at the beginning, and step 2 was what's your aim, your why are you machine knitting? And one of the options was learning. So maybe that is your reason for 2025 to machine knit, is because you want to learn things. So then you would go through and you think of all the things that you want to learn. What does that mean? Oh, I want to learn Fair Isle, and I want to use how to use my garter carriage, how to do tuck stitch properly. Oh, and I've heard about this thing called double bed jacquard. What's that all about? I'd like to learn about that. And think of everything. You might have projects saved in Ravelry or inspiration on Instagram, all sorts of things. So just spend some time jotting down all the random things, and don't worry about if they're all over the place and they are random. That's almost the point of it. You're trying to get everything into this one piece of paper, because then what you're going to do is pick just one thing from that to work on in January, either as part of Reboot, if you're doing Reboot, or just as your first project, if that's the way you want to tackle it. So you're going to come get this massive list all together. You're going to pick one project from it. And remember, it's going to be an easy project, not the hardest thing on there, probably the easiest thing on there. I would almost say so easy that you think it's not worth bothering with would be a good place to kind of position it. Pick that one project and then put this list away. Hide it somewhere. Don't look at it again until that first project is completed, because it's just going to overwhelm you. If you said you want to learn and you have this list here of Fair Isle and Knit Weave and Design and Knit and all the rest of it on there, your brain's going to be going, oh, I'll do a bit of this. Oh, no, maybe I'll do a bit of that. Oh, and you'll be all over the place. So what you want to do is say, right, okay, I'm going to pick tuck stitch. Tuck stitch is the thing that I'm going to do because I've done a bit of tuck stitch. I kind of understand it, but I would like to develop it a bit further. And I know there's a tuck stitch workshop in the community that I can use. So that's going to be my first project, to go and do the tuck stitch project workshop that's in the community, but it's going to be easy because I know a little bit about it already, and it's all written out for me, and I just follow it step by step, so I don't have to think too much about it. And that could be your first project, or it could be an actual pattern or a garment or whatever, depending on what it is that you want to, what your aim is, and what the easiest project is that can help you get going for the beginning of the year. So again, another blank page for you to fill in. And then step 5 is to then use the community to help you with your project or picking your project. So it could be that you use Reboot And I'll talk a bit more specifically about Reboot in a minute, but Reboot is specifically designed as a 3-week program to help you complete your first machine knitting project of the year. And it's designed in a way that it will take you through and do that step by step. So that could be what you choose to help you with your project. It could be that you use our ambition track, which is a program we've kind of devised, which helps you work out exactly where you are with your machine knitting now and where you want to get to. So that could be good if someone has chosen learning as their aim for their machine knitting, then the ambition track would help you with all the different suggestions for how you could improve your learning. We've got specific workshops. I've mentioned a couple of them already, on all sorts of things, on using your ribber. There's a couple of intro ones. There's one on tuck stitch. There's one on Fair Isle. There's one on stitch trickery. I think we've got about 20 different workshops now. So there's ones there that you can, and they're self-paced. So sometimes people prefer that. Or we have our knit-alongs. So like I say, our first new one of the year starts this Wednesday. So there's a live class for that, if anybody wants to come along to that, where we're launching the details of that for the next 12 months. So that would be a brilliant project to carry on throughout the year. Or you could go back and revisit one of our older knit-alongs. So we've got some there for lace knitting, for chunky knitting. There's a fisherman's Gansey there. There's a sock one there. There's lots of different things, and you could work on that on your own. Or you could go back and look at a technique class. If you've decided, like in my previous example, that tuck was going to be your thing, you could go to our video vault with all our technique classes in and click on all of the ones that have got tuck in and just work your way through those classes and do swatches based on those. You could use our momentum sessions. I've talked about that already. Or you could use our project of the month and finished object of the month awards as a way of getting that accountability, because those are every month we pick from the projects that have been posted in the member makes section, and so people who could put their finished projects in there, we then pick our favorite for the month. But it gives you that deadline of getting something in there and that feeling of ticking something off and having done something. It also means, if you use that in conjunction with our project tracker, that as the months go by, you start to build up in your tracker month by month by month all of the different projects you've completed, and that can be extremely motivating as well once you start to see that build up. So those are all different ways, or you can use a combination of all of those things across the year, but loads and loads of ways that you can use the content to help you get going with your machine knitting. But more specifically, because Reboot is the thing that is running in January, well, Reboot and Veronikathon, but Reboot is for people who maybe need something. Maybe you've lost your mojo a bit. Maybe last year you kind of lost your way a bit, and or your machine was packed away last year and now you've got it back out and you need another go. Maybe you were brand new to machine knitting, so you need something to help to take you through those first few weeks. Maybe you just need to get going again and you need something to help with that, and so that's where Reboot can help. So like I say, you pick the project, and Reboot is a 3-week program that takes you through the stages of getting that project completed. So people will all be doing it together, but you'd all be working on different things. The classroom for it is open now, and there's a preparation week with a lot of materials already in there that you can start to work through. And then tonight's class about setting your goals is kind of part of that as well, because in this preparation week you use the time to think about what your first project is, so that when you start next week you can get started on that project. And then you've got 3 weeks to work and finish it, so that by the end of January, you've completed your first project, whatever that is. So that's Reboot, and that's happening. So that starts officially next Monday, the 13th. But like I say, the classroom's open now, so anybody can access that now, any members, and you've got all the prep material there that you can start working through to help you pick your project that you will be starting next week and finishing by the end of January. That's Reboot. The alternative to that is Veronkathon, and I'm not sure how many of you know what Veronkathon is or how it's running. It's something new. We haven't tried doing anything like this before, but it's a knitting that's running live and virtually. So there's a group of 20 of us who are meeting in California on the 17th of January, so just under a couple of weeks' time, and we're all meeting for 3 days with knitting machines to knit something or to work on our knitting together. Not necessarily all the same thing, but there were a number of us who wanted to knit the Veronka pullover, which is a design by one of our members, Rebecca Yaker. Really lovely, clever pattern that quite a few of us had in our queue. So we were kind of like, oh, should we all knit it together? So there's not all of us, but some of us in California will be knitting that. And then other members heard about it and go, oh, but I want to knit that as well. So it's like, well, why don't you knit it at the same weekend that we do? So we will have some people in California doing it there, and we'll have lots of members all over the world joining in and knitting at the same time. I know we've got some people in Australia who are taking part, some people in the UK, some people in Europe. So it's going to be a really fun live and virtual knitting. It's going to run across those 3 days, and the idea is for people who don't need quite so much motivational stuff, but they just want 3 days to set aside to get something knitted. You pick a project, you knit for those 3 days. There will be some live sessions in the community where you'll be able to see what we're doing in California. Rebecca's going to be around on the Saturday for an hour if anybody needs any help with the pattern, or they just want to check in and let her know how they're getting on. So you can do it from the comfort of your own home. You can knit a Veronka, or you can pick your own project. Maybe you've got something else in your queue that you just need 3 days to get knitted. You've got the yarn there, you're good to go. But again, the idea is that by the end of January, this project will be completed. So it's another way of getting your first knit of the year done. So that's an option as well. And like I say, you've got the momentum sessions as well across the month, every month, but in January in particular, that you can turn up to as well. And they're in the community too. And that is how you set your machine knitting goals for the year. The idea is that you rinse and repeat on that process. So you do that review that I talked about, you go through and you identify your aims and you set your goals and you pick your first project, you complete it, and then you go back to the start. And then rather than reviewing your whole year, you now review that project. Well, what did I learn from that? What went well? What didn't go well? Okay, am I going to change any of my aims or goals, or am I just going to get my goal list back out and pick the next thing off that goal list and work on that? But the idea is that you've got something completed by the end of January, and then you've got your next thing picked February, and you're now on a roll, and that's what's going to give you the momentum for the year to keep on going and keep on building. So hopefully that makes a lot of sense to you, and that's helpful, and you've already maybe started thinking about things and things that you can add to your list, and getting that kind of tingly excited feeling about, oh, what do I want to do next? I hope that has helped. I'm just going to double check if there's anything in the chat, any questions. Steve or Katie, is there anything that I've missed out on that anyone needs any help with?
No, all is good.
Okay, great, perfect. Okay, so I'm now going to move on to the second half of tonight's presentation, which is more about using the community, what's in there. So either for members who are brand new, who need a bit of a look round, for members who are not brand new, but would like to see things that they might have missed out on. And for non-members, if you want to see what it's like inside the community. But I'm going to start by introducing us, the team. I've talked about Steve and Katie, and you might have seen them in the chat or on the screen. But we are, between us, the Machine Knit community. So I founded the MKC back in 2020. So actually, we haven't actually talked about this in the team, but later in the year, it's going to be our 5-year anniversary. So we might have to do something to celebrate that. So we've been going for 4 and a bit years at the moment, and the idea of the community was just as a way to help machine knitters make progress. Because we all know how difficult machine knitting can be at times. Sometimes it can be lonely, sometimes it can be frustrating, but equally, a lot of the time it can be really rewarding and a lot of fun. And so what I wanted the community to be was a hub that brought all of that together, really. And it's been lovely ever since it started. It's been a joy to be part of. And Steve and Katie help with all of that. Steve is our tech guru. He does all the making sure the site works properly and that members can access things, resetting passwords and all that kind of stuff. He doesn't do the resetting of passwords, but he can help members who need to do that. But he does all the tech stuff, the kind of the behind the scenes. And Katie does all the lovely front of house knitting stuff. So she's very inspirational as well, because she's very productive on her knitting machine, and is based in France. So she's one of our European members. But Katie helps with any of the kind of the machine knitting side of things and finding your way around the community and getting what you want from the community as well. So between the 3 of us, we are kind of the community team. And like I say, my mission when I was setting it up was to help people get what they want from their machines. And really I set it up because I didn't like using Facebook, was really my main reason for setting it up. But it was a way of bringing machine knitters together, and it does look very much like a Facebook group, which is a weird thing, because I kind of say, oh, but I don't like social media and I don't like using Facebook. But actually, there's a lot of things that are great about being online with other members, meeting people in other parts of the world that you never would have connected with otherwise, sharing photos, getting inspiration. So what I wanted to create was something that was all of that stuff without all the awful stuff of Facebook. So no ads, no algorithms, no politics, none of that stuff. All it is something that you can use to connect with other machine knitters, learn, inspire, but it's not going to distract you so much that you don't actually get any machine knitting done. So that was the aim of what the MKC was all about and why it was formed. You can access it in a number of ways, either from your laptop, computer. There's an app for it as well that you can have on your phone or your tablet. So you can always have it next to the knitting machine. You can be watching Bill King videos, technique videos, whilst you're at your machine and following along. It's very easy to use. And I'll show you exactly how now when I do a tour inside the community. So I'm just going to hop over, hopefully, to my other screen I have prepared. Okay, so this is a test user access inside the community. So what you're looking at is what a member would see when they come in, and you can see this big activity feed where it says my digest. This is a summary of everything that I have signed up to in the community. So unlike, like I was saying, unlike Facebook, you control exactly what appears on your feed. So there's all these different spaces down the left-hand side, which I'll go through in a bit more detail in a minute. And all of those spaces, on the whole, you can choose to either join that space or not join that space. If you join it, it will appear on your feed. If you don't join it, it won't. So you are totally in control of that. But this digest gives you a summary of that. So if you look down the left hand side at the top, first of all, you've got 4 main areas: My Digest, Discovery, Members and Events. Those 4 will look the same for every single member. Those are static and always stay there and nothing changes. And like I say, My Digest is the main one, and that will give you your activity feed for all of the stuff that you have signed up for. So if I go down there, I start to see all the different things. So this is the event that I'm now running. There's things that other people have shared, projects that they've knitted, and I can either look at it in that view, or I can click up here and change it to list view as a quicker kind of summary of all the things that are on there. And again, I can control how I see and in what order I see things. So maybe I actually want to see all the newest stuff first of all. So if I change that, now I see all the newest posts. So I see this one from Jo where she's asking a question. Here, Catherine's done a review of 2024, and we'll start going down. We'll start seeing probably some other people's reviews as well. And their finished projects. So yeah, Amanda's done a review, Ellen's done a review, brilliant, loads of lovely stuff there. So that's the main kind of activity feed and digest. The discovery is really, that's just a, we don't use that very often, but that's quite good for new members or people who are coming in for the first time. It gives you a summary of some of the top level stuff that's happening. So for example, some of the events that we have lined up. Members will show you all the members that are kind of active, and it will break it down into different groups. So top members are the ones who are most active. We've got some who use brother machines, some that are near to me. So it's a way of connecting with different people if you want to see that. And then the other most important thing that's up here is the events. So if I go to events here, you will start to see a list of all the events we have coming up for the next 3 months, and they're listed in date order. So the one I've been talking about that's coming up on Wednesday is the 12-month knit along that is launching then. So if I click into that one, I can see it will tell me when it's happening. It will give me some details about the class. It will tell me how many other people are going, and I can choose to RSVP to that or not. I don't have to, but if I choose to RSVP, so I'm going to click on going, and I've now joined that, I will now get a reminder on the day of the event. So it's just a way of helping me remember that there's an event coming up. It doesn't matter, I can RSVP and then life might come along and I might not get a chance to go to it. That doesn't matter, but it's just an easy way of getting the reminder on the day with the Zoom link. So that is that one. And now if I go to, you can see this calendar view on the right. If I expand that, that gives me in calendar layout all the different events. And now you can see the one in purple that's highlighted is the one that I've RSVP'd to. So again, it's giving me a very quick visual. Oh, look, I've got an event coming up on Wednesday night. The other ones that are grayed out, I can still go to those if I want to, but I won't get the reminder for them unless I RSVP. But the important thing is, because we have members all around the world and we have things running in different times, is it will convert it to your local time zone. So at the moment, because I'm based in the UK, it's showing me all of these in UK times. So the one that we're on now started at 5 o'clock this evening. The one on Wednesday starts at 7 o'clock in the evening UK time. You can see the one on the 14th, the momentum session that's running in America, is actually going to run at 1 a.m. over here in the UK, but that's because it's running in the evening US time. So if you were a US or a Canadian knitter, when you click in here, it will actually tell you the time in your time zone. So you don't have to do all the working out. It will work that out for you. But if I go back to the list, you'll see all the other events that are coming up in the next few months. And you can also go back and look at past events to see what happened maybe before you became a member. Maybe you went away for a month, you were on holiday, you want to see what happened. And if you see any of these that you're interested in, you can then go and find the video to watch them. So you might say, oh, that ruffle scarf with Lauren looks really interesting. I'd like to watch that class, you can then go to the next bit I'm going to show you, which is our video vault here on the left, which will then show you all of the different classes that have been recorded. And you can choose to go into any of the specific areas. So that one would have been a technique class, or you can just go to the main video index. If I go to the main video index and click on there, I can then go down, and it's been split into areas that I can look for. So I know that it was Lauren running the class, so I can click on Lauren, and it should bring up a list of any of the classes. There you go. So there's Lauren's class. I can click into there, and I can now watch the video replay of that class and any handouts that went with it. And so that's how you can catch up on any of the things. And so anybody who's coming in as a new member now, you can still access the 4 and a bit years worth of content that's in there. So there's some things like Bill's classes. He's done loads of classes with us. So when you click into Bill, you'll see all the different classes that he's done, and you can go and watch any of those that you want to. So there's a whole load of videos there for you in the video vault. And then anything else on the left, all of these areas are what we call spaces, and they're in different collections. So the community hub, one of the most important spaces is this bulletin board, and this is where anybody can post questions. You can share information. You can ask for help about things. So you can see there's some questions in here from people. Carolina's asking which Shetland yarn they normally buy for their machines. All sorts of things in there. And when you go into a space, you have these different tabs across the top. So the questions and posts, there's a bit for any events, there's a bit for in real life meetups, and then there's a chat there where people put DMs and chat in there, chat about just general, everything in the bulletin board is very kind of general machine knitting related stuff. But when you go to member makes and recognition, that's the next space in this area. This is one of the lovely ones. This is the one that I was telling you about before, where people post their finished projects, and then we choose awards every year. So you could go back and look at some of the previous awards. But if you go into the feed in this space, you will start to see what everybody has posted. So I'm just going to put this in list view again, and I'm going to sort it by newest. And you'll start to see the things that people have been posting, their finished projects that they've worked on. And then any that you think are interesting or you want to know a bit more about, you can go back. And here's a lot of people are putting in their reviews of the year as well. So Teresa's done a review here. That looks lovely. So this is a great place to come for inspiration and to see what other people have been knitting. But it's also a great motivator to say, right, well, I'm signing up, I'm going to knit something as part of Reboot for January. My aim is to post something in here by the end of January with my first completed project. And then I talked about the project tracker. If you start adding things to your member makes, if you then go to the project tracker, as long as at the bottom of each of the articles you post, you put the relevant hashtags, and there's an article, this how to use the project tracker will take you through exactly what you need to do to set up your articles so they automatically appear here. But if you go down here, say I want to look at Nick Corrigan's project tracker and see what she's completed in the last 12 months. If I click on 2024 for her, I will get a summary of all the things that she finished last year. So those are the projects that I was talking about. And that's quite a nice way to see things. And then you can obviously look at your own projects in the same way. So that's quite nice and motivational. You have how to use the Machine Knit community. Hopefully, once you've been with us for a while, you won't need to use this space very often, but it's a resource library of all the different ways you can use a community, how you do things, how you write a post, how you find a video, how you join an event, all that kind of thing is all in there. And then the marketplace is somewhere where we share things that people want to buy or sell that are machine knitting related. There are also pages of offers for any discounts that are available to members. There's a list of patterns, machine knitting patterns written by some of our members or by other designers. And then the marketplace is where people buy and sell books and machines and all that kind of stuff. So that's the marketplace. So that's everything that's in the community hub. The video vault I've taken you through. Ambition track I mentioned as part of my presentation earlier. And this is where we have something that takes you through what level you are now and where you want to get to. So there's a process it takes you through by following this PDF, identifying which of the 5 levels you are at, and then giving you suggestions of what you can do to move up a level. So that's all within Ambition track. And then you start moving into all the other content that I've talked about. So we have all our workshops. So at the moment, I'm going in as a test user. So these are the ones I've already signed up for. They're appearing in my list. But if I click on the see more, it will show me all the workshops that are available. So you can see there's one here, adapting hand knit to machine knit, which I haven't signed up for yet. If I wanted to, if I click on the join us, it will then give me access to that space. But the other patterns are here. The other workshops, sorry, are here as well. So there's one on Fair Isle, I could join that. There's one on Intarsia. So lots and lots of workshops. Those are all self-paced. You can just do those in your own time. Knit-alongs are normally, they happen live at a specific time, but once they finish, they stay here. So you still have access to all the previous knit-alongs that we've done in the community, and you can do those as self-paced things, even though they've already happened. So there's some great ones here. Again, these are the ones I've already joined. If I go to here, I will see the full list. So the painting with wool was a brilliant one that I didn't get a chance to. That was one of the things I didn't complete last year. But with Kate Box, that was knitting a blanket, a beautifully colour driven project using intarsia or plating to knit a beautiful blanket. So that's one of them, but there's hundreds, well, not hundreds, but there's a few knit-alongs there that you can join. There's our 12-month Cal from 2 years ago, which was amazingly popular, which was doing a letters of the alphabet blanket. That's there. Or there's the one that's coming up, the new one that's starting this week, that you can join as well. So there's all the knit-alongs. Challenges are the things we run from time to time, like Reboot. So if anybody's wanting to do Reboot, that's where you'll find it. And to join it, you just click on the access and it will then join the space, and I can now go in and view it. And like I say, the stuff that's there already is all the prep week stuff. So all of the program materials are there. And then all of the lessons for prep week. And then because this starts on Monday, when we get to Monday, week 1 lessons, they will all appear there. And then we have a feed where people can chat about what they're working on as part of Reboot. That will all appear there. There you go. And masterclasses, that's the one thing I haven't really spent too much time talking about at the moment, because masterclasses are the one thing that are an additional cost to membership. So these are programs that are led or run by a specific designer to knit one of their designs, and they normally run live over a certain period with 4 lessons with that designer, where they will what we call studio hours, where they will help you out over the course of a month to get the thing knitted. So these are an additional cost. The ones that have run previously are a lower price because you're no longer getting the live classes. You get the recordings, so you can still watch all of those, but there's no new live element with them. So you can see at the moment on this member has joined Sophie's one, but the others, if I wanted to join those, would be an additional cost. Marie's Fair Isle Academy is a new part of this area, and that works slightly differently, as in that's ongoing, and Marie's running that now with a live class every month for anybody who's particularly interested in Fair Isle knitting. And we've got a knit along in part as part of that, a masterclass with her next month for anybody who's signed up to the academy. And that costs I can't remember the exact price of it to join. I wonder if it'll tell me when I go into here. I can't remember the exact price, because for the when you join up for the first time, you get access to it for the full 3 months and the the masterclass that she's running in it. And then after that 3 months is up, you can either leave or you can carry on at £10 a month. That's how that one continues. I wonder why the price doesn't come up there. Anyway, that's an additional there. So that's masterclasses. And then the final bits we have at the bottom are like special groups. So specialisms for different areas that you might be interested in. So like designer knit, circular sock machines, pass up, business club. So these are all included in your membership, but you can choose whether you want to subscribe to these or not. So for example, if you don't have a circular sock machine and you have no interest in circular sock machines, you probably don't want to join that space. Whereas if you've got a pass app, you might want to join the pass app space and see what other pass app users are talking about, and having an area where you can chat to them about things that are going on. And we do have some specific classes that were just for pass app users, and you can see the replays of those there as well. And that's about it. The locations and the private groups are just if you want to join. If you're in Australia, you might want to join the Australasia group, because there'll be a lot more chat there about where to buy yarns or get your machine serviced in Australia and that kind of thing, or Europe or North America. So there's different things that you can join. But I think hopefully that was a very rapid run through of everything that's in there. I'm not sure if anyone had any questions on any of that at all. Was there anything, Steve or Katie, that came up as part of that? It was very quick fire.
We've been answering the chat as we've been going along, so I think all the questions are answered, but lots of people, even members, have said they've learned new things about bits they didn't
Good. That's interesting, isn't it? I thought that might be the case, because one of the, I think, downsides of the community is that there's so much there that it's very easy to miss all the things that are there, which is why it's useful every now and again to have another kind of quick run through and see where everything is and the sort of things that are there. So I'm just going to quickly, I've just got one final thing for the people who aren't members, just to explain how pricing and signing up as a member works. So let me just go back to my slides. There we go. So we've had the tour. I just want to run through again, what does membership include for those people who aren't members as yet? Basically, pretty much everything I showed you in that tour, except masterclasses. So if you remember, when I was going down that left-hand side, there were all the different areas, and just one of the areas was masterclasses. That's the only area you wouldn't get if you don't pay for the bits that are in there. Everything else, so the whole video vault, reboot, ambition track, all of those workshops, all of those knit alongs, the knit along that starts on Wednesday, all those live events, all of that is included as part of your membership. So the only thing that isn't is masterclasses. And then these are the costs. So you can choose to either pay monthly or pay annually. If you pay annually, you do save a bit. It's cheaper than 12 months worth of payments, but it is one upfront cost. So it depends which works better for you, and you can switch at any point. So you can start off as a monthly member, and then maybe in 2 or 3 months time you might then be ready to switch up to annual, and you can do that. You can become an annual member, and before your next annual renewal you can then go to monthly, and you will start paying monthly once your first year is over. So you can do either of those things. These are the equivalent prices. So you pay in your local currency. So it's either £20 a month or £195 a year. which equates to 25 US dollars or 240 US dollars a year, or you can choose to pay in euros, Aussie dollars, Canadian dollars, New Zealand dollars, Danish kroner, or Swedish kroner. Now, those are the individual prices, but we only have sign up for new members 3 times a year. We have so much other stuff going on in the community that the only way we can kind of focus on things properly is by doing it this way. And we have our 3 sign up periods, and then the rest of the time we just focus on running everything inside the community. So we're open to new members at the moment, but we do close on Wednesday. So anybody who wants to take part in that knit along on that starts on Wednesday would need to sign up before then. After that, we will be open again in April and September this year. So maybe now isn't the right time for you. That's fine. You can come back in April or September and join then. We do have a 7-day money back guarantee. So if you join and you come in and you spend the first couple of days looking around and you go, do you know what? I don't think this is going to work for me. It's not what I was thinking it was going to be, or I'm not going to have time to use it, or whatever it is. All you have to do is email us and we will cancel your membership and refund you within those first 7 days. Membership's open until Wednesday this week, and then after that from April. And I think and that this is just explaining the sign up process, because some people get a little bit, there's 3 steps to it, and unless you complete all 3 steps you don't get all the way in. So the first step is creating an account, the second step is accepting the terms and conditions, and then the third step is adding your payment details. And then once you've added your payment details, then your login will automatically take you into the community and you are good to go, and it's all sorted. But you have to work through all 3 of those steps. Sometimes people, I think, get to the terms and conditions, think they've done it all without putting the payment details in, and then it won't let you in until you've done that. But like I say, 7-day money back guarantee for anybody who does go through all of that but then decides that it's not quite right for them. That's absolutely fine. And I think that is it. So I have run over slightly again, 1 hour and 20. I'm sorry, everybody. I do like to talk sometimes. Okay, so I just double check that there's not, if there's any other questions you haven't had a chance to ask, feel free to pop those in the chat as well. I know it can be quite a lot to take in.
There's 2 or 3 questions, Nick, just at the end.
Okay, let's just have a look.
Starting with Colleen's one about, have you ever organised new machine knitter retreats in North America?
Oh, I haven't got to that one yet. So whose was that
from? That was from Colleen. Better starting from the bottom and going back.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I've just about got to the bottom now. I still can't find that. Do you say Colleen?
Yeah, McDonald.
It's all right. I think it's been answered. So I don't think it's that important, that one.
Yeah, because
right, okay. Organised new machine knitter retreats in North America. Oh, right, okay, yeah. We haven't done one specifically. The one that we're doing, the get together we're doing in California, which is happening in week and a half's time, is the kind of the first official get together the MKC have organised. But some of our members have organised retreats and get togethers, which they've posted about in the community. So that does happen. And it is something that's kind of on our radar to do something in either the US or Canada along the lines of the one that we run in the UK, because people don't know, we run once a year an annual machine knitting retreat here in the UK for 6 days. So it is something we're thinking about, but nothing that we've organised as yet. Then I've seen Jocelyn's comment about content for absolute beginners. Yeah, there's loads. There's some of those workshops. There's 2 intro to machine knit workshops. There's understanding your ribber, which is for beginners with ribbers. And then a lot of the technique classes are based around beginners using those as well. So where we're talking about the ambition track, those have different levels. So a beginner would start off on level 1, platform 1 of the ambition track, and the ambition track would give you some starting points of, well, what content shall I look at? And then all our content has either a 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 on it, so that you can see, well, is this going to be appropriate for me as a beginner? So that's all there. Catherine was asking about finding the app. So Kay's and Steve have helped on that one. So yeah, it's the Mighty Networks app. And then when you go in, when you sign in, it will bring up the Machine Knit community as your community, your Mighty Network as part of that. And then you just use that app either on your phone or your tablet or both. And I think, is there anything else? Things are jumping around a bit. I can't see any others that haven't been answered. Oh, Charlotte is asking, regarding previous CALs, is there a hashtag that you can use for finished projects that refer to a CAL? Well, you can add hashtags to anything, and you can create your own hashtags. Some of our knit-alongs would have existed before we had hashtags, so they wouldn't have a specific hashtag, but things like, say, for example, the dice roll vest that Kurt ran last year, that had its own hashtag associated with it. And so you can put that on your finished projects, and it will appear in a list of any of those. So yeah, hopefully that helps in terms of finding things. I think that's it. So, I mean, if there's any other questions that come up over in the next few days, if you're already a member, you can ask us questions within the community. We're all there and we'll be able to help you out. If you're not a member yet and you've got questions, you can, if you've already on our mailing list, you can email us via that, or there's a contact form on our website if you want to contact us that way. But we should be able to help. The email address you need really is info@machineknit.community, and that will come through to the team and we can help you with that. But hopefully we're all excited about a nice shiny new machine knitting year, and you've got a few ideas about what you might want to achieve this year, what you might want to learn, what you might want to get knitted. So I would just encourage you all to find some time this week, nice cup of tea, nice quiet space to sit there and just have a think about what it is that you do want to do and pick that first project. That's the key thing. So it would be lovely if people shared that in the community, what they think their first project is going to be for the year. Would love to see that. And if anybody wants any help picking a project, ask for help on that as well. Maybe you say, oh, I really want to do learning Tarzi this year. What would be a good project for me to start with for that? Or ask for help and suggestions, because there's always machine knitters in our group who've knitted something that you would want to knit. So it's a great way of getting ideas that way as well. Okay. Right, I think if that's it, I will love you and leave you for today. Thank you so much. And just remember, we've got our brand new 12-month knit along starting on Wednesday. So that's members only. So for everybody who is a member or everyone who joins before then, you can join me 7 o'clock UK time on Wednesday evening, where we'll be launching all the details of what the project is for the year, and it's going to be a good one. So I encourage you to come along to that, and I hope to see you then. Okay, thanks guys, thanks Steve, thanks Katie, thank you all. Whatever you do, have a fantastic year, and I hope you get lots of machine knitting into that year. All right, take care everyone. Bye.
Bye.